Vern Kyle here. In this video clip, you see Phil installing Vee Blades. They are basically an original pair of cutting edges that have been modified by making a tapered cut in the steel from one end to the other. As a result, when you make a cut with the grater, the center cuts about 10 centimeters deeper than the outside edge. This photo shows how the center protrudes down about 10 centimeters more than the blade end. This blade end protrudes out past the end of the moldboard by a foot. That's because these Vee blades were originally made for a 16-foot moldboard, but they work fine on this 14-foot moldboard. I hope you enjoy the upcoming video. We are going to be working on a lane using these Vee blades. Okay, here we are working on this lane, or back alley if you would like. They are usually designed with an inverted crown. The center of the lane is lower than the outside edge by about 3%. Therefore, the catch basins, CBs, are located in the center of the lane, at the low points, of course. I would like to talk about the steps previous to doing this. This lane was pre-graded, then it was stabilized, and then we added the 20 millimeter gravel that you see here, and it was watered and packed. When grading these lanes, the grades refer to the invert, not to the outside edge. When we place this gravel, we do it in 2 stages. The first stage, the Vee blades were not used. We placed the gravel level and flat across. In the second stage, we used the Vee blades, shape and grade the invert. And that is what we're doing here, the second stage. Now here is an important point. On the first stage, the gravel was placed and packed, flat and level, but in order to get the quantity close, when we shape the invert, we grade the first stage 4 centimeters above invert grade, or as we say it, 4 centimeters high. Luckily, it took less than 1,000,000 tries to figure that out. You notice how I'm angling my blade to try to work the gravel to the outside edges. Because don't forget, that's what we're basically doing here. We're cutting the invert and moving it out to the outside edge. The grade crew also marked the invert. They marked a paint line on the center line to just so I could keep the invert a little straighter as I went here. There's also a high point in this little lane, and I did pay attention to the high point when I was grading this. You see, one thing about this process is that you can end up moving the gravel down to one end of the lane quite a bit, so I do incorporate backblading into this quite a bit. By backblading this, you know, by dragging this backwards, you can keep your your quantity of gravel more or less evened out, so you don't get it all the way down to one end. These inverted blades, they work really well actually. The rust is already knocked off this one. You see how I'm backblading here, and it's conveying the gravel over to the other edge there now. Here I am doing a little more backblading, dragging this gravel backwards so I don't get so much my volume out of whack and get it all down to one end. And as I'm doing it, I'm conveying the gravel over to the edge. Now, when you're doing this process, the gravel in the center, it's all in cut, so it's rather packed. But you see, the gravel at the edge is all in fill, so it's loose. And that's what I'm doing here right now, is wheel packing that edge. Yeah, sometimes you can work with the rubber and you can just get him to work with you and wheel pack it. But in this little short area here, I just did it with a grader. And I'll make sure I wheel pack that edge. I sometimes do that twice. Now I'll put the gravel out there again. I'll get it out to the outside edge there again and probably wheel pack it again. If you don't do that a couple times, the gravel on the outside edge is loose and it'll keep kind of going away on you. It'll keep packing, and in order to keep the proper shape of the V invert, you need to make sure that outside edge is packed properly. Here I am doing a little more wheel packing on the edge. And once I've wheel packed that edge twice, then I'll reshape the invert a little bit. The CB is down at this end. The CB is right down by my front wheels there somewhere, right in the center. Now don't forget, when we roughed this lane in, we graded it 4 centimeters high, 4 centimeters above grade. So as we carve this invert, it should come down to about grade. Right by my back wheels there's a high point, and the high points on these lanes can be quite extreme. Quite often there is at least one high point in these lanes, sometimes 2 or 3. I'm trying to get the gravel worked over to the outside edge. Now, as I come up to this end here, I've got to be very careful not to touch this concrete. It's a private driveway, and it would be so easy to break the corner off that driveway. Andre is going to come with his skid steer and finish off these ends. It's hard for me to get my blade placed in there properly because that concrete private driveway's in my way there a little bit. Especially in these short areas, I use my back blade a lot. And you can see how you can move quite a bit of material with your back blade. Convey it over to the edge and get it packed in there. In the next video we're going to measure this up, and we'll see how the grade turned out in the invert. Here is Teresa and Rob, and they're checking out the invert grade. You know, when I was editing this video, I called Teresa to consult with her a little bit, and she said, make sure you tell them to haul the gravel in before they pour the concrete. You see, that way you don't have to run the loaded trucks over the concrete after it's poured. The quantity here turned out pretty good. This station turned out to be grade.
Good.
And the next one turned out to be a cut of 1 or something.
Well, these lanes just seem to turn out like that. I don't know why. I seem to get pretty lucky on lanes. And there might be a little cut on this high point yet.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and would you please subscribe and give me a like? We will see you next time.